On this week's edition of Just a Walk, thanks, we look at the Cox Plate, the ramifications, and everything in and around of it. We talk US political, presidential gear, deep dive into the Derby, and what is an enormous day, a juicy day at Flemington headquarters on Saturday. Enjoy. G'day and welcome to Just a Walk, thanks, episode 16, brought to you by Mailbag Bloodstock. Present on today's episode, Rob the Wizard Robertos Scuzdog off one of the fattest sets all time yesterday in Sydney. The horses were properly whispering to him, and he was letting his subs know what they said and who was going to win. Great set, Rob. Full credit to you. Butch Bourne, recent retiree, been in the Gold Coast, been in Sydney, been all over the racing papers, the racing TV. Very famous at the moment, our man. And as always, holding it together, the glue. The glue who took his missus to go and see the Winx doco and has dogged his last two sessions at F45. So we're worried about a sloppy rig, but at least he's doing the right thing by his partner, Jono Rayner. Shall we start with a bit of Winx, cry, tear sort of gear? Last week's Cox Plate. Have you ever in your basically history wise, Jono goes back a little bit. I will go back just a couple of years further, but then there's two guys on this podcast that go back to the almost the beginning of time. In Rob Scurry, the youngest looking old man in racing, and Butch Bourne, who's retired and is quite old. Butch, have you ever seen anything like that? What we saw from Via Sistina in this year's Cox Plate?
It was a bit of visual content, wasn't it? The all these high rating figures that everyone puts out. I mean, if you're lining up prognosis and then stacking 8 links on top of that, it probably backs up the figures. So I'm not anywhere near an expert in that, but I do know how you do rate a race. And I would have thought that would have just about backed up the figure. Um, Prognosis would be where would he fit in the world? Rob Scurry. Prognosis. He's been to Hong Kong, Japan. He's a very good horse, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you could say he's in the top, about 10th best middle distance horse in the world, something like that.
Yeah, and so Via Sistina has made mincemeat out of him. So, what was the time for the race, Jack?
The punting form time is 2 minutes and 1 second flat.
Which it 2 seconds quicker than Winx? Is that the
Winx's first Cox Plate, she ran it in 2 minutes 3 seconds 1 6. Then her second Cox Plate, 2 minutes 6 seconds 52. That was on a soft five. Then she ran a 2:03:04, and her fourth and final was a 2:03.64. So 2 seconds comfortably quicker than Winx's best ever, which is very, very scary stuff.
it's
Interesting
that
too because I know Jono and Rob were calling for the horse to be scratched after he did those laps on Tuesday morning, and Butch, with your experience, you stepped in and said she could now be a moral.
Yeah, well, there was an interview very short after because I was sitting in a motel room at Warwick Farm. Was it? No, Gold Coast. Can't remember where I was. Gold Coast, that's right. Um, and all this, the flurry came through social media, and unfortunately, they got to one of the connections of Via Sistina, who declared on the spot that it wouldn't be running.
Yeah, the
And
racing manager for Yulon.
yeah, yeah, and which looked a bit of a premature statement. But no, look, we often talk about, when the trainers get together and talk about trainer stuff, we all compare notes about, oh yeah, well, I had one gallop bolted the 2 days before, and someone will get you. I had one bolt the day before and still win, and then you get someone that says it's bolted the morning of the race and still won. So a couple of leisurely laps without the jockey on the grass at Moonee Valley, which would have been absolutely peachy. I couldn't have. It was a simple. It's not even Chris Waller's call as such. All he's going to do as a trainer is say to the vet, "Can you just pull this thing apart? Go over it with a fine tooth comb. If you cannot find anything wrong with it, then there's no reason not to run it." And that's exactly what happened. So everyone's got a job, and it's the vet's job to make sure the muscles, ligaments, and the action of the horse is fine. And and I have no doubt that Racing Victoria would have stepped in and just done a quick, had a quick scan themselves as they do in the Group 1s, and I shouldn't use the word scan, I mean a visual scan, and just to make sure the horse trotted up fine, which it did. So, and so there you go. So here's almost a peak performance. So that comes off a few leisurely laps galloped around the track, and I've always said those front bandages were overrated in track work, Jack.
What do you reckon happened to that person who put them on that morning?
They probably had to go back and do an orientation course on how to do it properly. It's just it's quite ironic to think that you obviously going to the nth degree to protect your horse so it doesn't knock itself in a gallop, etc., etc. I understand exactly why you do it, because when you're Chris Waller or Kieran Maher or Godolphin, you can do it because you got the resources. But my theory was always, if you don't put them on, they can't come off. And she doesn't race in them. Now, if she raced in bandages or protection, then I would understand you doing it for a particular reason. Whether she has prominent sesamoids or she brushes, knocks, rubs, I get it. But for track work, Anyway, it would have been a good discussion in the office later in the week if she had been scratched. About the stable protocols and what you do and how you go about it. But anyway,
what's she worth now, Butch?
What's she worth now?
Because they paid a pretty penny for it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So she's obviously a very high class horse. Fastnet Rock, you go to with Fastnet Rock's probably speed, but he's covered European mares, and she doesn't look like a fast. Oh, she's got the big ugly head, which is typical of Fastnet Rock. He had that head on him like a twisted mallee root. Apparently, he was just an absolute shocker, and he passes that on. But she's a big, rangy, athletic. Heart and lungs must be next level. Nearly far lap proportions, I would say. You say Fastnet Rock, but I'd say there's a.
Did you see Farlap run the 2040 at Moonee Valley ever?
Saw him at Agua Caliente his last start there in 1938 or whenever it was. No, I don't. He had a quarter crack at his foot and walked around the sand dunes for 2 weeks. That was his work, and he still won the race. So heart lung capacity goes a long way, and don't dismiss the fact that when she had a leisurely 3 laps of the Moonee Valley track, that it probably didn't knock her around as much as it would your benchmark 58 horse. Just take that into account as well. So
they paid $5.2 million for her and paid $6.8 million for Place to Carousel. So they might have made their money back on both of them.
What did they pay for alcohol free? She was a lot of money. She's about 7 or 8 million, I reckon, or
might have been 10.
It was a lot of money, Rob, wasn't
it? Yeah, huge money.
5.4 million guineas, 10.6 mil. Aussie.
Yeah, I was double it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously Via Sistina has. There's no doubt she's acclimatised really well, given this preparation. And what was her glitch? Was her glitch second up or second up on a wet track or?
Up to Melbourne versus Brightside and Jenny
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Antino and that on a wet rainy day at Flemington. She was well backed. She started dominant favourite versus them, and she went to sort of let down in a brutally run race and found nothing.
Well, there's one of the lines that we're going to keep using on this show until doomsday, which is, be careful you don't run in everything and win nothing. And if we retrospectively look at the spring, which is nearly finished, and I hear Pride of Jenny is running on the last day. That was as of this morning. So she's come back from the paddock. So she had a 24-hour spell. So she's freshened right up. And I think Brightside, I think he's doing the same. But at the moment, what Via Sistina's 3 wins this prep?
Yep.
Yeah, she kicked off with a Group 1 over 400 metres in the Winx Stakes.
Yeah.
She
So
then
what
won the Maccabi Diva. No, the Turnbull,
Turnbull.
where
Yeah.
she towed in Buckaroo but still beat him. And then she's won the Cox Plate in the greatest time of all time since times were recorded properly. And she's going to back up again into the Champion Stakes maybe, but it's the 2,000 metre weight for age Group 1 on Champions Day, Saturday week at Flemington.
Yeah. So retrospectively, we can look at the spring. So we better give it another week or two. But she's a 3-win horse. This preparation, so she's been placed well and she's had fantastic returns. I think Prodigy's 1 win, Mr. Brightside 1 win. Fangirl, a tissue. How are they tracking? What's the? I'm just thinking of all the.
A tissue will be very hard to beat at level weights. The last race of Derby Day. No, the
Yeah.
second last race of Derby Day.
Empire Rose.
Empire Rose. So that's her sort of. It feels like that's the setup for her. She started $4 versus Brightside.
She hasn't won this prep yet, but
In the Might and Power maybe. So she'll drop back to her own sex, to a track she loves. J-Mac on, and they're giving you 460 at the moment. It seems ridiculous.
and she came
It
through
meets
the
like Plenty of
Turnbull.
Ammo and Revolutionary Miss at level weights.
Turnbull.
Have him.
Off a $4 SP versus Antino and Mr. Brightside. I don't understand how.
Well, there's one in the race that I'm very keen on there at double figures, Jack. I think you should cover it in Lake Vardy by Reliable Man, the grey, the Joe Pride. Very excited about this horse. I think Flemington, it'll just adore Flemington. We haven't got to the bottom of this horse yet, Jack. Quite excited about it. I was wondering, and I probably should have asked you this before.
I have that $19 and it's $19 at tab. There you go.
Is it the case that it hasn't done a figure because it's been running in slowly run races?
No, not that.
Sorry for the question without.
Give me some. No, I've got it like 2 lengths off a tissue. It's a good race.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
Amelia's Jules in the race. Anyway, where are we going here? Let's straighten back up and talk about running
I just think
everything and winning nothing. We'll get to and we'll preview Derby Day in as much detail as you guys require. In hindsight, then you're saying, Butch, you would have potentially done things a little bit differently with the Brightsides and the Pride of Jennies of our world?
No, I just think look, I think you certainly you need to be thinking what you want to win. Like you've got to have one particular target. And I'm not necessarily aiming up at Pride of Jenny and Mr. Brightside, etc., and those that have them, but you've just got to. I've seen a lot of it over the years. Rob would have seen it because we're the same age, but he looks 20 years younger than me. And And you've just got to be careful. You don't, just run and everything can win nothing. And the same applies for the 3-year-olds and the 2-year-olds and the sprinters. So we're going to look at the end of this spring, and we're going to look back, and we're going to have a look at in the sprinting ranks. What do you got? Well, we've lost Think About It, Private Eye, Giga Kick, Bella Nipotina.
Giga Kick and I'm Unstoppable were running around on Saturday week in the Champions Sprint. I pray to God, Zeus a la Bilbo, that Growing Empire doesn't join your list of running everything and win nothing. It runs favourite in the Coolmore on Saturday. Please God. But it's you're almost sort of collecting it into your basket already. I can feel it. A little grin on his face for this is a podcast.
It's more my way than yours.
I think that I think the Pride of Jenny prep's been pretty sound, to be honest. Like, she was set to peak, I thought, in the Cox Plate, and she just sort of didn't. But the Brightside prep, I would have dogged the Fian or run in the Fian, but not gone the Might and Power. I would have gone to the King Charles and backed up into the Cox Plate. But having said that, he went enormous. There was a few water skiers sort of bagging him again on Monday and Tuesday, not getting 2,000 metres. He got every bit of 2,000 metres again. He's run 2 enormous Cox Plates. He's just been beaten by a pimple in one, and then by the greatest performance I've ever seen and anyone's ever seen just about on Saturday.
So, Jack, would you say that, like, his rating in the last 2 Cox Plates would be similar?
His rating on Saturday would be better than the one when he got beat.
Yeah, but so conservatively, he would have gone the same run.
Yeah, so like, if he failed on Saturday, then I would have a different view. So in last year's Cox Plate, he ran a 17.7, but he was I'd say he had a softer run doing it. The raw number here is a 17.4 on Saturday, and I thought he got diggerized a bit by the stablemate Evaporate, sort of going in and out, and what the fuck's it doing? So
Yeah, so this leads me into one of my favourite subjects, not running potential stallions in the races they should be winning. And you'd be liking the backup to the Derby of broadsiding against those horses, but they are not going. They don't want to win the Victoria Derby.
they want to win the Champions Mile. They're gonna go the mile or the 2,000 metre race. I think the 2,000 against Versestina.
Or nothing, maybe.
I think they would have made their call. Like, if we were them, I think they made the right call. It's more commercial, and he's deadly. There's a huge number he's run. He went enormous in the Cox Plate. But
Yeah.
on Monday we were like, well, there's nothing in that race that can beat us if we continue it on our trajectory, on our spiral. Oh, and then on Wednesday or whatever, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Uncle Chris is not running the Melbourne Cup, and now we've got to take on Versestina, which will be the most interesting thing for me all spring.
Her repeat performance.
How far below what she did in the Cox Plate does she go here? Because she can't do that again.
Yeah. Well, she might only win by 3 lengths. The and if I go sideways from what I was just talking about, when Militarise is now being gelded because he's firing blanks and his stud career's over.
Dr. Blanks.
He gets it could be the next sponsor. He now comes back a gelding. They have absolutely no interest in what he runs in or what he wins, just as long as he accumulates massive amounts of prize money. And I think you will see Militarise out to a distance when he comes back as a racehorse in the next 12 months.
So a little speck at next year's Melbourne Cup or something, you reckon?
Not about the Melbourne Cup, but I think the horse would certainly be well.
BMW.
Yeah, well, 2,400, yes, Rob. Yeah, anything 2,400.
He'd be on the sort of Via Sistina prep next spring, you'd think. potentially maybe mix in a Caulfield Cup after a Turnbull, maybe to a Cox Plate, and then either to a Melbourne Cup or to the Champions 2000.
Anyway, so the only reason we're talking about militarised is the Autumn Sun militarised broadsiding, just the fact that these horses who are screaming out for a mile and a half never get there because it's a non-commercial, view. So I don't know. I just think you play with fire when you what you want and what you get are two different things.
Well, he's a chance now of having he'll have had 3 runs in Victoria in the peak spring, the grouse races, and should he run into VS16 a Saturday week, he might be 9-3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, he's got unlimited.
Anyway, and of course, just pausing on the Cox Plate, the horse that runs second, Castelvecchio, to the very good Japanese mare, Rob. What was her name?
Liz Grisher.
Liz Grisher, that's it. Yeah. He's tracking very well. He's got one of the favourites for the Derby. I'd drawn the outside gate, El Costello, but he's had 3 stakes winners, group winners in the last few weeks. He's Group 1 winner and the Spring Champion. Could back it up and win the Victorian Derby. He's doing it in the Autumn 3, Spring 3, as opposed to the Autumn Suns Autumn 3 Flurry. So the bold prediction here is that Castelvecchio might be tracking a little bit better than the Autumn Sun at the same stage.
Fair enough.
The Autumn Sun's had a setback, so it's Castelvecchio's floor to take over for a little bit.
Yeah, but you still don't know. Well, he didn't serve this year, the Autumn Sun, but there's a couple of crops to follow him through, the yearlings and the foals. So you won't get that pause. He's got enough momentum to go through the next couple of seasons. But just the fact that the Castelvecchio is getting his stakes winners earlier, 6 months earlier, it all goes to maturity, etc., etc. So, definitely not too like zero. So you've got to treat Castelvecchio like you would treat Done Deal or the High Chaparral line. You're not going to get much. There's not going to be nothing at 2, not much at all. So the fact that he's really come good now, as they just ticked over 3, very positive signs.
You see, Butch Dundeal's got 3 in the Derby and a Castelvecchio.
Yeah,
might be 4.
Yeah, Done Deal has had a couple of really good seasons. He's just, it's like Zabeel and those sort of really good stallions that get the middle distance and staying type horses. They don't hit the ground running. And then one day you wake up and you think, this horse is. You start counting all the good horses that they've produced.
Jack, if we're going to win a Group 1 soon, I think it's going to be with a cheaper one of these benchmark 78 staying races. Like the Victoria Derby looks like a 70, 75 at best. How's that, Mr. Tadashi? Is he still 3? Is he any chance of going in the autumn, or is he a 4-year-old now? That hard going thing up there in Queensland.
4.
Bugger. Hong Kong. Have you got on the phone?
He's only won a Class 1 at Lismore. We're not getting too excited, Rob.
Well, anyway.
We're getting excited. Let's not talk about Hong Kong. I think that Maurice is like our next big hope.
Yeah. With the Hayes boys.
I saw her Tuesday morning, actually. I was up there watching one gallop and got to see
as you'd hope.
Yeah, I still think she's 6 months away, but that's part of a process, and that's part of when you buy those horses with pedigrees like that, it requires patience, it's that's what she is. So you're looking for something, albeit even we just spoke about Castle Becco coming good. If they just, if you get that little glimpse at Spring 3, then you know that second half of the 3-year-old season, you're going to be, at your best, at your strongest.
And
So
but you're also, beating all those guys who went too early with their horses, and there's a churn out of the other 2-year-olds. So the crop goes down for the people who race too early.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
early,
Yeah, and that comes with either expectation of a price point or breeding. So if you've bred or bought to speed, or you paid a lot of money, then the expectations are on those early 2-year-old races. So if you buy the later mature, just let them develop, and the easiest thing you can do is just let them develop on their own. And in saying that, the horses go in and out of work, and they trial and they gallop, and they eventually might get to the races. They're not just idling and treading water. They are educating, and but you've just got to wait. There's that when that maturity kicks in, then you can put the pedal to the metal.
Do you think, like, as an owner, do you have to lean on the pedigree until you see them develop? Or do you, once you've purchased them on the pedigree and the type, you're just focusing on the actual physical more so? As in,
Yeah,
we've sort of got six 2-year-olds now from last year. You'd anticipate that 3 of them are racing at 2 when we purchased them, and you'd anticipate that 3 of them are 3-year-olds. The Seamus, the Churchill, and the Maurice, the 3-year-olds, the Hanseatic, the Yes Yes Yes, and the Alabama, the earlier ones. But then they get into the system, and you kind of like I'm hoping that the Alabama and like they go really well early, whereas the Maurice, I'm just like excited if they go early.
yeah, yeah. It's just the pedigree. I mean, you don't have to be a pedigree expert. You got sprinting size and middle distance staying size. So you know when you're purchasing, but you get a snapshot of them at a yearling sale, and quite often you look at them 6 months down the track and you go, oh, it doesn't quite look like what I bought. And then maybe 12 months or even 18 months later, there's this horse that comes out and stands in front of you, and you go, that's what I saw at the yearling sales, and the evolution of, the maturity, and that kicks in, and there's your product, I mean, the earlier the better, because they're, like if you're going to win a Guineas, a Derby, and Oaks, and all that, you get out there, they do perform earlier, and they're showing good ability. So that's what you want to see. So with, say, the Maurice filly, spring 3 is where you want her to be, to be showing really good signs on the racetrack.
Nice. All right. Where to now, boys?
Should we let Rob have his moment?
Well, I'm not excited this week. He's fine. I'm actually over the
Just to
election.
clarify, we're going to start talking a little bit about
This
the US political.
a week out, we'll have a new president, won't we?
We're a week
Well,
out.
elect.
There's Puerto Rican garbage. There's some horrific stuff going on over there. It's just a completely different world. And for the next 5 minutes, we're going to dive into it, courtesy of Rob Scurry.
Oh,
Trump's into favourite.
into favourite is $1.60.
What price have you
Which
got?
around $1.50. I would have thought. I wouldn't want to go much lower than that. I think the Dems could somehow tell us that they've won. But I think
Brett Favre was speaking today in Green Bay.
I don't know. That's a good name though.
I see here. So Donald Trump's $1.50 and Kamala Harris is $2.55.
Mm.
Uh, what?
It sounds like they're pretty even in the polls, but was it last time they were running, Trump basically outdid his polls by a significant margin? Is that what you're
Yeah,
hearing?
correct. Yeah, very much so. The polls definitely favour the Dems. But yeah, they're saying, men are going to vote for Trump, women are going to vote for Kamala. Um, Trump seems to have all the momentum. He's been doing the sort of US comedy podcasting scene. I'm kind of into that scene. I like a lot of those guys. Even JD Vance went on my man Tim Dillon, which was quite good. He also went on Theo Vaughn. And while Kamala, doesn't want to do anything off script, she seems pretty inauthentic to me. Trump on the Rogan came across as pretty authentic, like a complete bullshitter. Yeah, but like someone he you haven't watched it, Jack. He actually does very well on the Rogan. Look, I've only watched clips and like 20 minutes of it, but yeah, he sat there for 3 hours. He didn't need a piss. He didn't drink anything. He's like a lizard.
Probably doesn't need a
And just
piss like my son doesn't need a piss because he's wearing a fucking nappy.
yeah,
Are you saying
possibly.
Donald wears nappies? How
Geez,
much?
what price would you have Donald wearing nappies?
Hang
I'll
on.
take
No,
$4.
no, it's up here. It's up here somewhere. So, Rob, the college votes is Trump going to get?
I think I can't remember. Look, I don't know the exact number of about the electoral college, but he's expected to get most of those, and Kamala will win the popular vote overall. I think Trump's a chance of winning the popular vote as well, just because the fact that Kamala's kind of inauthentic person whose campaign is joy, and she was going quite well in the polls when she wasn't speaking to anyone. But as soon as she sort of opened her mouth, it's just got worse and worse and worse. And Trump's sort of picking up steam. Um, the other problem with the Dems is they're just basically calling everyone who supports Trump a fascist. And I think that pool of fascists is growing due to that. There's a lot of vitriol coming from the left towards the Trump, and the left is, they're now pro-war and anti-free speech. So a lot of people are kind of, well, I'm one of them. The
That's
left sort of
probably what they're calling other
left.
people, isn't it?
The left's left me. Yeah.
I think I also reckon every single person that's going to vote for Carmella will say that they're voting for Carmella, whereas probably like 10 in 100 or 20 in 100 that
Stay.
are going to vote for Trump won't say anything and they'll just vote for Trump.
Just,
I think American lives have got worse the last 4 years. Their dollar's gone down. The streets are less safe, they're dirtier. It seems pretty grim. They send all the money to the Ukraine. They've kept everyone in their houses, forced them to take vaccines.
What about this for the multis, Rob? In the for the state of Mississippi,
Mm,
you can get $1.005 for the Republicans.
it's fairly good one to add on to your multi. I reckon. Yeah, as I said, I think Trump's going to sweep. I don't think. I think it's like I took a little bit of $3 just that he'll win the popular vote. You just need to have big blinkers on. I think to support Kamala Harris. There's big concerns about Trump is just going to speed up things in the genocide in the Middle East.
Which state was he in when they mashed his ear up? Where was he when that happened?
Was it Bolton or something?
That
Bowler
healed up
roll.
real quick, didn't it?
Fuck, that was.
Here we go. Conspiracy.
Yeah.
How's memory hold real quick? He was shot. So you'd think that them trying to shoot him and stuff as well, and all these celebrities that are all mates with Diddy coming out to support Kamala. It just seems pretty inauthentic.
Marshall Mathers.
Latest.
Yeah, he came out, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
Real
That's-
Slim
that's-
Shady.
Anyway, not much on Diddy at the moment. Just his May 5th is his trial, and still don't think he'll make it to trial. But anyway, that's what I'll say. Anyway, I think Trump's president. I think everyone's going to have to get their head around it. I think it's going to be really fun watching the media meltdown and everyone getting really upset that Trump's president again. It's very easy to hate.
That's like the glass half full sort of stuff. They both sound fucked to me, but at least with whatever bad stuff he does, it's going to be a lot of funny shit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you one thing. This is only an observation, and I had my glasses on at the time. I think they both dye their hair.
Oh,
Trump's got a weave.
That'll be shorter than Mississippi odds. We need to get a market on does Trump wear a nappy? That's got me going
there. There's a difference between a nappy and an incontinent pad, so you better.
Oh no, I'm not taking bets on the incontinent pad. He's got one of them on.
If you reckon?
He wouldn't have seen it for 3 or 4 years.
Well, he could have. He's got some advisors. He could take a straw poll on that one. Anyway, now, Rob, what is your theory on the scratching of the Melbourne Cup favourite Aidan O'Brien's horse, Jan Bruegel?
I think he's got too much form of horses breaking down and dying, and this one being a spring 3-year-old, he was pretty confident he would win. It was on an upward spiral, but bringing a spring 3-year-old down to run the Melbourne Cup, it's like asking a 16 or 17-year-old person to play first grade, run a marathon sort of thing. It's not something that you'd want to. It's a stress test on a horse, and if you add a firmish track, then I can see why they scratched him. They don't want any more horses dying on the day.
Brings back memories. Remember that very good lightly raced horse, 3-year-old they brought out, Bondi, and he had a complete meltdown before the race. Did he run third or something, Bondi? And he stayed in Australia because he was owned by Lloyd Williams and just never ever got over that experience.
There's half a dozen of his horses that never ran anywhere, never ran a place again after their trip to the Melbourne Cup. I saw it. I think it was Ben Ascari or someone had a Excel spreadsheet of all the runners over time, and it's not good reading.
Yeah.
Two died.
If you leave names out of it, and I do applaud racing authorities for putting protocols into place, and since they've been in place, they have straightened the Melbourne Cup back up again. So you've got to say tick to that. But it does bring up discussions. If they do have scans in Europe before they come out here, why do they have them when they get here? You're not galloping on the plane on the way out.
I guess the reason for that is exactly what's happened here.
I think I do agree. I have heard bits of the interviews with Aidan and various other people. I do agree when he said like a shadow of concern on us. The scans. 3-year-olds, it's an evolution of body bone and everything. So I get that, and we don't. Are they doing how about we run all the Coolmore runners through the machine and see what they come up like? I think you'll find there'll be some shadows on them as well. So the only thing I say is, rather than, I think it's unfair because everyone sort of says, uses the word Grace Forbes, being the Race Victoria vet. I think that's unfair. I think the fairest thing would be to form a panel and have a panel of vets. And in this case, you need people that are experienced in reading the scans and probably racehorse vets at the same time. And that's got nothing against Grace Forbes. I'm saying why lump it all onto her? Why don't we have a panel of vets have a look at that? And but it's a rule, and he didn't pass the rule, so he's out. That's the way it's
Yeah,
working.
I like it. It's not Aiden's race, or it's like it's the country's race, and it's the lens through which the public views the industry, and it needs to whatever they need to do to make it sweet. They need to do. It'll have, I'd say 10. I would even say 20 times the turnover and interest of the Everest, but definitely the turnover and the interest is significantly bigger for the Melbourne Cup. It's the first race I watched when I was a kid, and it needs to be a good experience. And it's like an entry point for the future of the sport, and it needs to be done right. And the punter at home or the young person at home that's not a punter that might be a punter does not care or know who Aidan O'Brien is or his horse.
Maybe so. Maybe tinkering with those rules. Maybe they don't allow Northern Hemisphere 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Well, it's
maybe
not going to, but and that is not going to do anything to deter young people or non-racing people from enjoying the race.
no,
They
no.
just
Well,
want they just want 24 horses in a sweep.
yeah. Well, the first, I mean, this is how much interest I don't engage to the cup because there's a lot of nominations and a lot of talk around it. So the first time I'd ever become aware of Jan Bruegel was this week because people bum into you down the street and say what's going to win the cup, non-racing people, and you say, well, the field's not out until Sunday. So, what's the weather? What's the track? What's the barriers? We don't even know the final field. So it's a difficult, and I understand that, but that tells you so everyone else is getting engaged because they're asking. They're sort of going, I'm going to have a bet in the Melbourne Cup. What should I back?
I think that they should back Kovalica, and I hope that it gets loose on
Tuesday.
tomorrow morning on Friday and does 3 laps of Flemington at his own leisure. It'd be like you're about to play in a grand final and just let loose on the MCG for 20 minutes by yourself.
Might
How
need
good would you be
five
feeling
laps.
mentally?
It's a bit longer. 5 laps will do it.
That Jack,
Whatever
that
it
happened.
needs,
Jack,
just to get itself right. I think Kovalica's run in the Cox Plate was enormous, and Uncle Chris knows how to get one to peak on a
just a
grand final,
parallel,
unlike anyone I've ever seen.
just a parallel with the MCG, Jack. That happened a month ago. There was one team let loose out there running around on the.
Oh, too soon, Butch.
Is it?
Yeah, it's too soon. So I think to make it fair, the vets, they should have maybe 3 vets, and they should all view the scans blind and not know whose horses they are. That way, Aiden doesn't feel victimised that we're picking on him for
How,
his,
do you- how you going to look at a scan blindfolded?
Well, no, like you don't know who's the connection of the horse
Need
is.
to
It's like,
respond to that, Rob.
Sorry, that was a terrible, terrible joke. No, I agree, and that's because I've sort of been thinking about. I don't like people just aiming up on one particular person, and that's why.
yeah, he's an
Um,
absolute legend, Aiden O'Brien, and I love the way he talks about horses. I think he's one of the great people in
yeah,
European racing, maybe the most interesting European
yeah.
trainer.
If don't get me wrong, if I'm Aidan O'Brien and I've got his record and his wealth and et cetera, and passion and ability, that he's definitely got all of that. But if I'm him and they're scratching that horse out of the Melbourne Cup, it's not really going to cause a ripple to my, you know, yeah, he's at the Breeders' Cup at the moment with 7 or 8, 10 horses or something. I mean, I see one of those was scratched over there too. Just that's nothing to do with anything else, but he's Aiden's going to his disappointments aren't going to be as much as other people's because he can move on really quickly, and he's got enough good horses to cover everything else. So, as much as he might be perplexed about the decision, I'm sure he would not dwell on it because he doesn't come across as that sort of a person to me.
Where to next?
Derby Day.
Derby Day. I'd say it's the best day of racing each and every year. full credit to PVL and Racing New South Wales for giving us something to watch in Sydney whilst we enjoy um, nine of the best, the very best at Flemington headquarters. Rails in the true, a little bit of rain this morning. Beautiful conditions, moderate to low winds Saturday. There will be no excuses for anything and anyone on Saturday. What do you want me to do now, John? Do you want me to just go through a few?
Should we talk about some specific races? Should we start at the Wakeful race 5, lead into Oaks on the Thursday?
It's an interesting race.
Mm.
There's John Sargent's got JMac booked for Powers of Opal, who was a maiden until last start, where it went to Hawkesbury and absolutely pissed in.
Mm.
It started $1.18 there. It won by 5.5 lengths. It ran the third fastest last 600 and 200 of the entire day. Prior to that, it was very good behind Lady Shenandoah. It was good behind Northern Eyes prior to that. It looks progressive. It looks like it wants to stay. It looks like the 2000 is just what it wants. And with JMac sitting on its back from barrier 8, it's pretty hard to see it having anything other than a pretty charmed run. The maps can look congested. I think like the Derby map's really congested. But with these sort of horses, I don't expect anything to go ballistic to get a spot. I think they'll sort of fall in where they need to. Gaze or Lee with Matt Laurie and Powers of Opal will just be sort of midfield somewhere. One off the fence. Looks very hard to beat. The interesting horse for me in the race is Kieran trained, lightly raced Chocolates. Harry Coffey rode last start. Similar profile. Went to a pretty soft maiden at Bendigo and kicked their heads in. Had a little tick over in between and now goes to the Wakeful. It's a 3-year-old filly by Shocking, so you'd think the 1500 to 2000 is going to be right up its alley. It was very, very good, like really, really good on debut at Ballarat. It looks genuinely progressive and a stayer of some quality. Yet to run. Calm down, don't get too triggered here, Butch. It's yet to run a big figure. But it's done what it could do given the race shapes it was in. It was the 8th fastest last 200 metres of the day of 1500 metres at Bendigo when it won 25 days ago. They're the two horses that really interest me in this race, but it's properly interesting. Even our Paramore, Blake Shins decided to stick with it. Lovely SPs, like it was 360 versus Hurry Curry, Inevitable Truth. In that Oaks preview, which I think was on a Sunday maybe at Flemington. That was a really firm track and it wasn't suited and I thought it went pretty well, but it got through and ran well on the firm track. You know, we could see a pretty firmish track by now on Saturday if it dries out and there's just a little bit of wind. But most of the horses here are fascinating. Interesting. It's a very interesting race.
I didn't mind the stablemate to the favourite. That John Sargent train Inevitable Truth. It's still a maiden. It's drawn a bit tricky, but been hitting the line pretty well. Might appreciate a little bit more distance than the 2000, but could be one for the Oaks.
Yeah, it was very, very good. I thought at Caulfield in the Ethereal loses the Magic Man and gets Jai. But the barrier's real tricky. I think they have to ride it cold. I think it's probably one that if you liked it, John, you probably want to say you're going to have $100 on it, or have $50 on in the Oaks, and have 50 on it here because it might get back, run on, be a nice run for an Oaks.
Yep. All right. Should we have a look? Race 6, I think, is the Coolmore. Yep, that is indeed. Jack, wow, you're pretty hopeful there of Growing Empire. Are you confident he wins?
I'm on Growing Empire at $26 and in a couple of all-ups. So I was prayed, God, Zeus, Allah, I prayed that they wouldn't send it to the Manikato. Then please don't run the Everest. They did both. And the horse is still going. And by all reports, he's eaten up and he's just ticking over beautifully. So,
to be fair, your ticket was confetti for a little bit there, so at least he's going there.
Oh, it's been a fucking
it's a roller coaster.
It's been a real yo-yo mentally, a real roller coaster of emotions.
Now,
Yeah,
Jack,
it
can I
seems.
run? I need
Rob,
to
it
run
does
this
seem,
past
doesn't it?
you.
Man, every Derby day just about, I sort of find myself in a position for like absolute glory or tears of despair.
Was it Young Werther? Was it? Was that
Young
one? Yeah.
Verda, there's
Yeah.
been a heap of them,
Yeah.
and this is this year's main play. Um, I make him 320. I price the race 100%, and I make him 320. That's banking on him, still wanting to race and racing to his ability. I think he's the best horse in the race. I don't mind Switzerland, though I think it's coming from the B grade form. Mickey Gannon, it's his best at Flemington. He said to mention that. So I've taken a length off it there, Butch. And the horse that I think's big overs in the race, like big overs, is number 8, Gatsby's. Gets blinkers first time, D lane on. It just stinks, and it's the right price to like open it up and really give it a good
Well,
walla.
Blinkers first.
Seen a heap of ability early in the prep, foot right off. Let's take this into a Coolmore sort of Via Sistina. We've seen it before when we're gonna see it again. The man knows how to peak him in a grand final, and they can run right out of their skin.
If
Blinkers
Well,
on, D lane on,
blinkers,
beautiful
blinkers
barrier.
on. Blinkers on means two things. It screams desperation, or it will improve with them on. One of the two.
And at $23, we don't need to overthink it.
Now, I've got one for you in the same race.
Mm.
This thing nearly headbutted the gum tree on Tuesday morning when I was there. Went that fast up the hill. I'm probably speaking out of school because I wasn't meant to see this. But number 9 called Stolly Bolly. You scampered up the bloody hill there at your rower on Tuesday morning and just about impaled its noggin into the gum tree, I tell you. And you know what that means, Jack?
It's gone.
We've heard it before. JD told us. The closer they get to the gum tree. Now, now because you're a ratings man, now on ratings, can Stolly Bolly finish anywhere near them?
Yeah, it can. And you can tie it into earlier in the day. If we just give me a second here, Gallant Sun runs around somewhere.
it's in this, isn't it? Yeah, it's in this.
Oh, it is. Sorry.
But does Lovely Cut maybe run earlier?
Yeah, Lovely Cut runs earlier. I think
Yeah, I think it does.
there's a couple of ways you can sort of get a. There's one way or two ways. I've thought of all this meeting like through 3 to 4 times. You can get more confident on some of these horses with what happens earlier in the day, and this is one of them. So, this is kind of like the Waller blinkers on. The Hayes boys, they love the winkers on for a grand final. They love putting their winkers on, and this thing gets winkers. I thought the setback for it and for Traffic Warden, they were the inside draws. So, like Empire, Switzerland 8 and 9, Gatsby 7, D Lane 7, whereas this is Luke Curry 5. You know he's going to be down the inside. Sort of 7 times out of 10, that's not the best place to be down the straight. Traffic Warden's got to go and load nice and early. Let's hope for my futures bet that it over races and in the barriers and doesn't get to start again like the Everest. That would be a good result for me. But obviously, if you're on it, good luck to you. Stolly Bolly's genuine and a player. But it's a great race, you know.
I thought it.
Settlers flying.
Yeah.
Bellatrix Star's got this amazing preparation that could end up in the perfect run here, following a first settler and a Gallant Sun into the race. Gallant Sun's got a jockey on it now, and was a dot ball of a run at Caulfield after being not ridden well first up. SPs say it's really good. Its win at sales said it was generational. It's probably overachieved there first up. It's a very, very good race. And then you're discounting horses like Coleman or Lady of Camelot that have come in through Everest or Manicados. And yeah, there's not many horses here. If they won, I'd be like, oh, how the fuck did that happen?
I thought if your one bubble did burst, first settler was like it loomed that time. It was against Grown Empire to sort of go past it, and Grown Empire went again. But It was pretty good last start too, winning up the fence, gets an outside
Yeah.
draw.
I think though the fearlessness of Kieran through the size of his operation is a real factor. Like it, you'd think like what VSSina did last week was really bad, having the 3 laps. It turned out to be great for it because he's a really good horse. This is a really, really good horse. His win down the straight versus that first settler was heroic. He was
Yeah.
into like a 40K wind that day and similar days in the last little 3 month period, like Barraquel, Nadal, they copped that wind. They all come out and gone enormous. He's better than them. He's a proper horse. And if he's continued through this preparation with an appetite and a want to work and hopefully on Saturday chase the line Sheen style, I think he could kick their heads in. I think Switzerland's going to get the right run though. He'll just tag Growing Empire, and if he's good enough, and we've seen again, it's the same bloke peaking him. Like, yeah. Gatsby's in Switzerland get the nice runs. They'll ride the speed, and if the speed horses aren't strong enough, they'll be the first horses with the opportunity to win the race. And that's where I think the Stolly the Colemans, the Bellatrix Stars, and the Traffic Wardens, that's their problem, is they've got to hope that the horses with the map advantage is slow enough and peak on their runs enough that they can swoop over the top.
All right. You boys got anything else to add for that race? Or should we have a look at maybe one more? We'll skip the Derby, otherwise Rob could explode on.
No,
Yeah.
just on the cool. Sorry, Rob. Just on the Coolmore from a breeding perspective, because it's they all want to win the Group 1 race. So Stolly Bolly, if it does happen to win, would completely bugger everything up because it's the only gelding in the race. And then you've got Lady of Camelot and Bellatrix Star down the bottom. Anything else that wins the race then goes up, $10 million in value straight away. So very important for every other runner bar those three. So, but that the one on Mark Walker's, Jack, what has it done wrong? It's I love a horse that just wants to find a spot and then finish strong. Like it's going to be really strong at the end of 1,200 metres to me.
What it's done wrong is it started 650 versus Oscar's Fortune. It started $3 at Mooney Valley last week and shit the bed. Before that, it beat GG Smith Truth. It started $3 at Caulfield, sat outside the leader. It couldn't go past Two Darn Lizzie. Before that, it beat Bold Bastille. Its form is B grade versus some of these, but I agree 100%. And I've been wrong about this horse 3 times this preparation. The last 3, it's won. It's spiraling on and it's on the way up, and it will be strong late. And it goes Craig Williams to Blake Shin, and it's going to get to the right part of the track. The knock is it's going to be way too far back in the run, but then it's Blake Shin. So
what about the Golden Slipper winner that ran 4th in the Everest the other day?
Camelot.
Yeah.
It started $61 versus Growing Empire 7 in the Everest is a setback for it.
And Traffic Warden 8 before it got scratched.
Sounds like a bet to me, Camelot. It was a real bunch finish, wasn't it, in the Everest?
Yeah, but it started $61.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a wait. It's only, is it 9? Is it? All right. That'll probably get out, I'd say.
I'd happily back it, boys, or like, but it's kind of like the Gatsby's, but they're giving me like there was $34 around for Gatsby's this morning.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Jack. Would you rather run last in the Everest or start $61?
I'd rather it ran last and started $4 in the Everest. I don't know. I would bet you'd be getting $21 here. You got to go against the crowd. You got to swim against the current.
A lot of Japanisme about Gatsby. It's a Waller horse that when Exeter Spear started. Remember the year they butchered the track? They put the spikes into it.
Aeration.
I think it was blinkers on as well. Gelding, Japanisme.
Wishy-washy chestnut by Squire Sear, wasn't he?
Yes, in the Cerise.
Should we have a look at the Group 1 Empire Rose? We mentioned it briefly before. Rob, do you want to start maybe with your Lekvat and then we can get into
Look, I hope I probably already said it. I just think this horse is we haven't got a ceiling on it, and a lot of these in this race, the race looks like half an afterthought. And a tissue, I think, it's been one of mine, but she's been up for a while now, and she's had a lot of starts. Like Komochi, I'm not sure if it gets 1,600 meters. They're orchestral, it's a lovely looking filly. I loved her in the Oaks, but she seems a bit short here. The other one that the Boom WA horse, Amelia's Jewel, is it?
Yeah.
Yo-yoing kind of form, maybe a bit of a boom horse. Just think this Lex Vardy is just sneaking in under the radar. Maybe they've gone slow. It's Jack. It's defied the pattern to win last start, and they've gone slow. Is this a big setback for the horse? Is its lead up form? Are they just going to go too quick for it and it's going to get too far back, or is it going to get a lovely little spot? And is the track going to make perfect?
It's a Group 1. I'm not knocking it. It's a good horse. But it started $9 versus fucking Quickstar last start. $9 versus Quickstar, right? This is a Tissue's race. If a Tissue turns up to run what it's capable of running, it will kick their heads in. A Tissue ran in the Australian Cup this track and trip versus Cascadian and Prodigy. It started 480. Right?
Mate, look, listen to me, mate. I was back in a Tissue back when it was missing the start, like 3 years ago. It's one of mine, love it, but it's at 50 starts now. Just I wouldn't be shocked if one of these wallers just
420 in this race last year and got beaten by a horse called Prodigy. It started $4 last start versus Deny Knowledge and Mr. Brightside, and was probably the best run of the race.
Comes out of Turnbull form.
It's just like legitimately good. It before that it started $14 versus Via Sistina in the Turnbull. It is got the A grade weight for age form with really good SPs.
Hey, Jack,
you can't talk me out of it. And
I know I'm not going. I'm going to give you a little bit of information, a little nugget that'll make you maybe get you more excited. Number one in that race, it wins it like one in every 2 or every 3 years, something like that. Top weight. Go back through the years. We can do it later. Footnote to the show.
Believe it or not, I don't factor that into my betting decisions.
But let's say Divine Madonna's one that brings to mind.
I think that most of these horses are really talented. Sox Nation even it's drawn awful and going to get a bad run, but it was a sneaky good run last start. Orchestral ticks a heap of boxes. It'll come with a big run with a Tissue, but it started $17 last start behind Antino. It was very, very good. It goes Stackhouse to Zara, gets the blinkers first time, Butch, so they're either desperate or they're ready to win. It's a very nice horse. The setback for a Tissue and Orchestral and maybe Lac Verte is if it's been mad on pace, and that is a setback for us. Asilfina's flying. Plenty of ammo. Was very good last week on the quick backup. Going to get a much better run here than it got at Moonee Valley. Amelia's Jewels, probably blinkers on 2, top of my head. Yeah, blinkers again. It's going to get a suck run behind probably Komochi. Grinzinger Bell's going to make it a genuine run race. And Revolutionary Miss gets a lovely, lovely run and is a very fair price. I just think a Tissue is a starting point and the finishing point for betting on this race. I expected her to be $3, and then I'm sort of I'm joining Rob and trying to find angles around her because $3 is tight. But $4.60 for this horse that started the same price versus like the best boys in the world or in our country at weight for age, like please. The very interesting runner for me, and I did take $51 on Tuesday, but didn't have a jockey, so I didn't tell any of you or anyone. But I thought I was probably pissing it up against the wall. But Zardozi was $51 and they accepted without a rider. And now Stackhouse rides from 11. It's running again, I'm pretty sure, Butch, on Tuesday in the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
I thought they probably maybe just threw it in and they weren't going to run. But I couldn't out of the 51s.
Realistically, from 11, it's going to get, it's going to... how do I say this without saying it? They'd probably rather it be at full strength Tuesday.
No, I agree. But like 51s. It's 17s with a bad barrier and it's going to go back. Whereas if it drew 4, it'd be $10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's really it's just I've just when you look at its form. Um, the only thing I'll say, I'm a great believer in Flemington horses at Flemington. So if if the big, it would not surprise me to see it run third. And if it stormed home and ran third, what price would it get into for the Melbourne Cup?
Mm. Mm.
Look, she just doesn't. She's a funny looking thing, that Zardoz. He doesn't look like a stayer at all. But that's why I like Lekbart. I know it's never even run in Victoria, but if I could run it anywhere, it would be either Flemington or ideally, or Newcastle would be my second pick. Then probably Randwick. But yeah, look, Jack. I think you're right. I think I'm going to have to get on. Take whatever's there. I've got to have something on a tissue. Certainly been a horse I've been very happy to back. She is a Flemington horse.
If they're running on through the day, like she'll start with a 3 in front of her comfortably, and could think about $2. I think $2.90s, $2.80s. She's the best credentialed horse in this race by a mile. She comes from the right races with the right SPs, and it's from the right trainer that would have planned this all along. So, just to be clear, I really like a tissue. I don't mind Revolutionary Miss at the price. I think Plenty of Ammo's just under a fair price. If it got out to sort of $8.50, $9, you'd think about it. And I do have Headfirst $19, which is bang on the best available right now. Rob.
All right.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. What do we got next? We're not doing the Derby, are we?
No, we skipped.
It's a disgrace. This is an absolute disgrace.
Well, who do you tip saying in the Derby?
Oh, I think it'll be one or two, El Castello or Red Aces.
All right,
whatever it's called.
Let's take 2 bets from everyone for the day. Any race. We'll start with Jack since he's done the work, and Butch gave me a funny look like he didn't have one prepared.
I like race 3, number 11, Ray Magnerio, and race 8, number 1, a tissue.
All right. Rob, you got something for us? Or you've pretty much talked about yours maybe, but
Yeah, well, look, Lekvardy, I will have something on a tissue. She's certainly, a horse I do really like, but I just
This is also, just to be clear for Rob, with the trauma he's sort of, I don't even think he knows he's dealing with right now, but this is, Saturday will be the anniversary of me telling him to back Osmosis and him stubbornly refusing to. So, just the stubbornness of that to take a $26 tip.
I think that might have happened Adelaide too, didn't it? Something like that.
They bring up Morfettville, digging up old graves. I couldn't sleep because of that. Well, let's hopefully it's the reverse this time, Dicko, and hopefully you will have something on like Vardy. And I really hope Pistol gets really excited about Growing Empire, because he thinks it is one of the best colts he has seen in the last 5-8 years. And yeah, he's mounting out. If he goes again, I'll be following it in. I'm kind of keen on Traffic Warden. I'm listening to what Jack's saying regarding the barrier doesn't really help him at all. So I'll just stick with Lekvardy as my tip, and Sydney, not sure. You have to get the mounting out mail.
Yep. I quite liked Keeneland in the Derby.
I like that, yeah.
With Huey, I think, was on from memory. And I liked a tissue too, but just to be different, I thought Star Patrol could bounce back in race 3.
Nice.
Butch?
Yeah, well, I had 2 picked out for the Derby, El Castello and King of Thunder. So I'm probably just going to sway towards J Mac out of Barrier 1, just Barrier 1 versus Barrier 18. So I'll go the way of King of Thunder, the Tavachi out of the Zabeel mare, Second Dam on a Babe. We all good Kiwis should know that it's going to stay like an unwelcome mother-in-law. So We'll go that way. But Al Costello's, yeah, he was so impressive. Like he just looked like he was going to back up with ease. He dashed home his last three. So I'm a little bit tempted to go the place on Zardozi. To be honest, I can just see it just dropping into third spot.
Well, it's not going to win, and it's going to run second or third because I've backed it just to win.
What price was it last start?
They started top of my head $12, $11, maybe $9 in the Caulfield Cup.
Who won the Caulfield Cup?
Duke Harry Coffey. What a story! What a day!
What a day it was. Butchie, El Costello could make light work of that barrier. It's got speed compared to a lot of these slugs.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not that deeply invested in the race and the ownership or whatever, but I'm surely you don't want to be trying to dodge 16 slow horses trying to get through them. So it's just it is an anomaly for such a good race, and they run 18 horses. It is the worst start in Australia, that 2,500 metre start. It's hardly fair. So that could be the better reason to make it 2,000 metres instead of 2,500. Better barrier start.
All right.
Story for another day.
That's it for another episode of Just a Walk. Thanks, episode 16. This episode, like every other episode, brought to you by Mailbag Bloodstock. We have 5% left in the Legio 10 plus 4 outstanding 2-year-olds, 3 with Lindsay Park, 1 with Gavin, Group 1 Gav, Bedgegood, Seamus Award filly, a Maurice filly, an Alabama Express filly, and a Hanseatic filly. JONO, Jono at themailbag.com.au. We can do them as a package. We can do them one out. Love to have you involved in our stable. Have a phenomenal weekend. Gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858 or visit the website. Enjoy a glorious, fat weekend of Group 1 racing. Bye for now.